What's up, wizards, and a happy new year. I wanted to drop by with a nice little tip about satisfies and variable annotations. There's been a bit of confusion about the satisfies keyword since it came out in TypeScript 4.9, and I want to clear it up. Before we carry on, I am releasing a new TypeScript tutorial today, solving TypeScript errors, which takes you through basically a ton of different TypeScript errors, how to read them, how to fix them. It takes my total number of free exercises up to 59, which is pretty nuts, which is almost like a whole paid course in itself. Really. So go for it, use it. I can't wait to see what you think. But yeah, on to satisfies then. So let's imagine that we have some scores here, and these scores are basically going to be a record of different scores that we want to keep in the same object. We should be able to add things to this, so scores.english equals this, scores.math, or maths if you're me, should be stored in there as well. So this scores variable should be a pretty wide type here. We're using this variable annotation syntax, which means we're operating on the variable itself. You notice that we're not doing something like this, where we're saying, okay, this object is this thing. There's no real syntax for this, except there sort of is with the satisfies operator. What satisfies is doing here is basically making sure that this value satisfies this condition. So if we add something in here that isn't a number, for instance, then it's going to yell at us, yelling at us right here saying English type boolean is not assignable to type number. There's an issue though, which is the actual scores variable here has not been changed at all. Satisfies just operates on the value. And it doesn't actually try to widen the value at all, doesn't actually try to make it that type. That means then that we can't assign new things to it because property English does not exist on this type. So this is a case where satisfies actually shouldn't be used. You shouldn't be using satisfies here. And if I change this back, then we can see that scores is actually now being applied as the wider type. So when you want to widen the type, you should use a variable annotation, not satisfies. Where satisfies is really good is when you actually want the narrower type here. So down here, we've got some config. Here, we're basically saying satisfies record string, so string are the keys here, and then the values are string or number. So of course, if we pass a boolean here, then it's not going to have fun, but if we pass a number or a string, then all good. Our config now, if we hover over it, it's actually got wide string and narrow number as the thing that's being assigned there. So we're not widening the type at all by doing this. And this means then that we get autocomplete on the thing that we get here. Whereas in the one above, in the very wide type, if we look at scores.whatever, we're getting no autocomplete because the key is just string here. So what happens then if we take our config and use a variable annotation instead? Well, let's do it. We have config, record string, string number. Now we lose all the autocomplete that we had before. So config.wide is now just like whatever, it's a string. And the values that we were getting off them before, they're no longer, string for wide and number for narrow. It's now string or number for both of them. So let's reverse that. Let's go back in time, look back at our satisfies thing now, and we can see now that wide is a string and narrow is a number. So this is the key difference. We are basically getting some enforcement on this value here, but it's not widening the value at all. So config actually stays the thing that it was assigned here. It's almost as if we didn't have the satisfies condition at all. And all the satisfies condition is doing is basically just saying, yep, we need to make sure this is what we want it to be. And this can be really useful when you have massive config objects that you want to make sure are a certain shape. So there we go. Satisfies is really good for keeping things narrow, and variable annotations are really good for keeping things wide. Thanks so much for watching, folks. If you like this, then I've been doing a ton more YouTube shorts, and I've even been heading over to the dangerous realms of TikTok as well. And of course, I'm still on Twitter and still doing all of my stuff, and I've still got tons of stuff coming out on Total TypeScript 2. The book is kind of ready from my end. There's still a bit of processing to do in terms of the publisher, in terms of all that stuff, but it will be coming out this year, which is pretty amazing. So happy New Year, folks, and I can't wait to see more of you this year. I'll see you very soon.